Welcome to the Podcast Monsters. I'm your host, Doug Bartlett, a serial entrepreneur, founder and owner of Bartlett Roofing. If you have a mind for business or you want to grow, we are the podcast for you. All right, welcome back to the Podcast Monsters. I'm Doug Bartlett, your host, and excited to have you joining us today. We are in a brand new studio space here in our Boise office at Bartlett Roofing. Super excited about that. Great space that we have set up here. Today I have with me Ashlyn Bartlett, my daughter. She has been working for me for almost 5 years now. She started in sales and has moved her way through a lot of positions in the company to now she currently runs our human resources and our recruiting departments. Super excited to have Ashlyn here with us. Ashlyn, just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're here, what you're doing, what brought you here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been a long time in the making for sure. I grew up in Idaho, and good old Idaho girl. Went to college at Boise State after deciding not to play volleyball in college, and I didn't like it, so I moved to the East Coast for a little while. Worked for Disney as an intern actually for about 10 months. Hung out on the East Coast, met my son's dad, had my little guy. He's 6 now, and then in 2017, that's where like the current version of my life really, I feel like really my life in general really changed after that. I moved back from North Carolina to Idaho in January of 2017, and in February of 2017 is when I started working for you.
Yeah.
Had my start as a receptionist / fill-in payroll / filing / finding paper contracts for roofing, because this is when we were still doing paper contracts and not e-sig.
Yeah, Ashlyn was a catch-all for us for quite a while. She was bouncing from position to position, just filling in every gap as the company was first getting its legs and really starting to grow. So there was a lot of holes to fill, and Ashlyn was very resilient in filling those positions. So she got a lot of exposure to every different position in the company.
Yeah, I can remember writing Exactimates. For a really long time, I wrote Exactimates. I moved into sales shortly after that. Honestly, the main reason was I was processing everybody's insurance checks that they were bringing in. And it was like, I remember specifically, like one day I processed like $80,000 in insurance money. And I was like, holy crap. And then I did their payroll and I was like, holy crap, they're making so much money. And the homeowners aren't even paying for this. If these guys can do it, these like 40-year-old men can do it, I can do it for sure. Like, I don't know why I didn't have any hesitation behind it. I was ready to go. And so that's kind of when my sales career took off for a couple years. And I still had my hands in some other stuff internally. I was always kind of around, but I did sales exclusively for a while. Really enjoyed that. Gave me a lot of autonomy and time to spend with my son, Easton, when he was really young, which was cool. And then now, like you said, I'm in recruiting. I'm head of our HR department as a whole, and working in a couple other fun kind of passion projects like this podcast. So I did recruiting solely on my own and training for a year. It was like 1 week of recruiting, 1 week of sales training, 1 week of recruiting, 1 week of sales training. There was always catch up. It was entertaining for sure. It's crazy to look back on because so much has changed. But now I run a team of recruiters. Year to date, we've recruited over 300 people, 300 full commission sales reps, door-to-door sales reps. So that is a huge feat for us. I think last year we recruited about 200 sales reps to the company. So we've beat our best and we're continuing to improve and grow. Our HR department is fully functioning and has processes in place, which is nice. When you grow this quickly, you realize that there's holes in legalities and compliance, so you got to figure that out. So it's been a learning curve for sure. Bringing it to where I'm at now, like I said, I run those teams, and I feel like I've got a really strong team around me to help me be able to direct them, and they're the boots on the ground, and then I'm able to come in and help guide them and train them and also work with them. I think that's one of the most important things is I still do screenings. I still review resumes. I still look at stuff, budgets, things like that with my recruiters especially, and work with them weekly and daily. And, that's kind of my role in the company right now and where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing a great job of it. We've had outstanding results in the recruiting this year. It's been a total turnaround from what we previously used to do, and our performance there is phenomenal. But, there's something I'm going to riff off on. It's just a little segue there, something that popped into my head as you were talking is when you moved into sales, you saw how much our sales guys were making, and there was no question in your mind about whether or not you could do it, which to me is really indicative of the way that people approach life a lot of times, which is if the motivation is good enough, there's no longer a question about the ability. So ability and motivation are very closely tied together. And so if you feel like you don't have the ability to do something, you need to look at what your motivation is. Are you motivated to actually change your life? Are you motivated to be successful? Are you motivated properly to make the impact that you want to make in your life? And if you're not doing that, then you're lacking motivation.
100%. Honestly, that was like the point that I felt like I was at. I have to provide. Like,
Right.
I don't have a choice. I'm a single parent. I don't have anybody else paying my bills. Like, there's literally no choice, and there was months that it was hard and there was months that it was a lot easier, but there was no choice. That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, impossible tasks suddenly become possible when motivation is properly addressed, right? It's just your decision whether or not you're deeply motivated enough to make it happen.
100%. Yeah. Over the last 5 years, I know a lot of people that are close to me, like yourself, have seen it, but I've definitely noticed huge growth in myself. And it just does come down to that, is like what your motivation is. I was in probably the worst spot that you could ever be in 2017. I think I had $500 in my bank account and had a 2-year-old child. And I moved in with you for like 8 months and probably overstayed my welcome a little bit, but I didn't have a vehicle. I was like sharing an old beater work truck with my little brother for a couple weeks. And then my grandpa gave me some money to buy a beater car off Craigslist that blew up like 3 months later. Yeah. And I had to go get financed on another car. So the point is, in my personal experience, like you said, if you want to, you can. It's
Right.
really up to you and your mindset more than anything. It's your motivation.
Gotta have that monster mindset.
Exactly.
Move out of that victim mindset and move into that, mindset of I can, I will, and then go take action.
Yeah, I think that, like, especially now in my personal story in life, like, I feel the most stable I've ever been, but it's not just because it happened overnight or because I worked hard for a year. Like, it really was 5 years of working hard and still continuing to do so. But now I'm in a place where, I have a really awesome vehicle that I can rely on, and I just bought a house, and my son goes to a great school, and we have a schedule. And those things may seem like frivolous and silly to some people, but it was huge for us,
Right. Yeah, it made your life more stable. You had to find that proper motivation to change your life.
And when you're stable in your life, you're also going to, like, in your finances and your home life, and, you'll also be stable in your emotions, which is going to translate to work and other relationships and things like that. So I think that was one thing that I learned really early on, and something that we're going to talk about is, if you don't handle your crap, you don't take care of it, it's going to come out in weird ways, and it's going to affect you in different ways,
Yep. Today we are going to talk about limiting beliefs, what kind of effect they have on your life, and what you can do to overcome limiting beliefs. So, Ashlyn, what does limiting beliefs mean to you? What is that?
To me, it's a little self-explanatory. It's a belief that's limiting you, right? In whatever capacity that is, whether it's at work or at home or in your relationships, it's something that you've told yourself millions, thousands of times that is holding you back, right? And it's not allowing you to continue to grow or progress in whatever area that's in. And I personally have experienced this a lot, and think it takes a lot of self-analysis to be able to see that actually you're the one that's perpetuating it sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a key point, is that, your ability to self-analyze is a huge part of limiting beliefs, because what the story you tell yourself is what you make yourself, right? But let's talk about, limiting beliefs. What are some common limiting beliefs, and what are some things that people tell themselves that affect their lives in a way that they don't, that are negative and draw them down?
I think one of the most common ones is, like, I'm not capable or I'm not good enough. I think that, especially with work or professional life, that's really common. Like, I don't have the ability or the skill set, or I can't do it just in general. I would say on a personal level, probably some things that are like, I'm not good enough for this relationship. Or on a personal level, I think, like, especially in relationships, I'm not pretty enough for women and men too. I think that's probably most common. I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not good enough, or they're out of my league, right? Like, I'm not on their level. I know I've experienced that in my life in past relationships, and Unfortunately, a lot of the times it becomes a poison to the relationship, right? Because you're projecting what you're thinking onto this other person, and you can't read their mind.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that limiting beliefs, about your personal, your body, how good you are, those are really clear. But there's also other limiting beliefs like you have to have money to make money. That's not true, right? Or I don't have the discipline to get in shape. I'm not attractive and therefore I don't dress well, right? So what's the point? And the story you tell yourself is the story that you believe and act on. And so limiting beliefs are, a huge factor in people's lives. And I know that I didn't experience success until I just chose to put those to the side and act in the way that I needed to act and know that the results were going to come based on what I did. If you go after the life you want to go after, no matter what it is, whether it's fitness, relationship, money, you can change your life.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you just made me think of something else along the lines of that too. And limiting beliefs, it doesn't always have to be like I can't or I'm not, right? I think sometimes it's just a statement of I am something. I know previously in my personal life, going through some difficult things with my son and his biological father and that stuff, I dealt with some serious depression and anxiety, and I used to just say, I am sad. I am sad. I was making it a part of my identity rather than I feel that way. And that's something that I know I've talked about before to other people, of understanding that there's a difference between feeling a certain way and that being your identity. And I think that's part of limiting beliefs too, honestly.
Yeah, I think you are right on the nose there with the story that you're telling yourself is the one you are going to live. What you say is what you end up believing because you repeat those things to yourself over and over again. So what are some limiting beliefs that you have actually had, ones that really, truly held you back? What are the worst ones that you've had to deal with?
Personally, for me, probably what I just referenced on a personal, side of things, personal life, dealing with a very, I would say, abusive, emotionally, mentally abusive relationship, and that becoming a part of my identity. Another one that's probably more pertinent to this is going to be I'm a single mom at 26 years old, and I had Easton, my son, when he was 20, or when I was 20. I had Easton when I was 20, and I didn't have a college degree, and I didn't have any experience in true business outside of waiting tables and selling tanning memberships. So for a really long time, I, didn't think that I was capable of things, right? I was going to be this way forever. I was going to be struggling forever. I was going to be this single parent that stereotype that you kind of see of single moms that they're always struggling, right? And so I think for a while, even though I continued to see success as I had grown, specifically within Bartlett, within sales and different admin roles, I think in my head I was still telling myself that, I'm not capable and I don't know these things, or, I'm not good enough to be in this role, and not allowing myself to grow into something rather than expecting myself to be that way right off the gate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It follows, because your performance at something, what happens is we tend to all self-sabotage, right? And so if you are telling yourself a story about something, your assumption is that it's not good enough, and therefore your belief is that everybody around you thinks you're not good enough also, which makes your interaction and your effort decline, and the behavior that you put out ends up sabotaging what you're actually trying or wishing you could do. And when you let go of that, you totally empower yourself to accept and be thankful for all the good things that happen as a result of that. And I know that for me, that was what happened with me, 7.5 years ago at the bottom end of my life. And I'm saying, hey, I got to change my life. And so then I started putting in the work and saying, I am going to reap the rewards of what I do and not how I think. And so I'm going to always act in a way that pushes me forward and stop acting in ways that sabotage my life.
Yeah, because your thoughts become your actions, right?
Yeah.
What you think is what you do. And so if you're continuing to tell yourself these stories, these negative things that are just on a hamster wheel in your brain, then that's what's going to be your reality, right? Like your mind is so powerful. And they talk about this a lot with sports. And I played a lot of sports growing up, and we did a lot of visualization exercises before games. We'd warm up, and then we would literally all lay on the gym floor, and the coach would take us through a visualization exercise where we visualized ourselves hitting the ball or passing the ball or whatever, right? And the same thing's true in just everyday life. What you think becomes reality. So if you think you're not good enough, then like you said, the people around you are probably going to feel that way because you're projecting this anxiety or these emotions that you're not dealing with internally. And I think that's the biggest change that I've had, is that I've learned to not kind of put stuff away and like brush it under the rug more or less, and actually deal with it more in the moment, right? And handle that stuff then and there, so it doesn't come out, and those emotions don't come out in limiting beliefs or in my communication with other colleagues or other relationships.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I remember I read a study years ago where they had two groups of people learn to play the piano. One sat down and practiced every day, and the other group sat down and visualized it, and then just practiced a teeny bit. And they ended up learning to play the piano just as fast as the people that were actually practicing. That's how powerful the visualization is.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. But the visualization, your mind doesn't tell the difference between the real and the visualization because it feeds the same neural pathways.
That is insane. I want to learn to play.
The question is where do limiting beliefs come from, and what are they really? Besides the story that you tell yourself. So what do you think about where they come from, and what really is at the core of a limiting belief?
I mean, I think it's similar to what I was kind of just referencing with emotions and not dealing with things internally with yourself that you're trying to process, whether it's you're sad or angry or frustrated, whatever the emotion is. I truly think that a lot of my personal limiting beliefs have come from, it's those emotions that you haven't dealt with, and then again, it's just perpetuating inside of you. And so that's my personal experience, is that most of the time when I am telling myself I can't do something, it's usually a self-confidence issue, right? And then where does that stem from? Let's take it a little bit further and dig a little bit deeper, right? Well, self-confidence is probably because of my lack of like self-respect and self-love, right? And so then you got to start implementing things in your daily life to change those things. So, if I look in the mirror every day and I tell myself how ugly I am, then I'm going to think that, and I'm going to feel that way, and I'm going to believe it, right? And so it's the same thing with your emotions. Like I talked about, if I'm sad and I say I am sad, that's different than I feel sad, right? And then dealing with that long term with whether it's talking to someone you love or a counselor or whatever that aspect or whatever that thing is that you need to go take care of.
Or better yet, just changing the self-speak altogether to I am happy. I am a person filled with thankfulness and joyfulness, which, that's I do a thankfulness thing every morning now. It's just something I started this year, where the first 3 minutes of my day every day are, I don't even get out of bed. I just look at the same place on the ceiling and I'm thankful. And I think of all the things and all the people that I'm thankful for, the opportunities, and it sets your mind for the day to eliminate the limiting beliefs and act on the things that you're thankful for and the opportunities that you have. I think that for me, my most limiting belief that's been like the strongest influence on my entire life until recently has been the need for love. I didn't feel like I was worthy of being loved. And so I was seeking love and acceptance to fill a hole in my life where the only thing that could fill it was me choosing to have self-love. And since I've corrected that, which, is, still basically new to me, but it is changed. And I have found that I am very satisfied now with all the relationships that I have, and much happier in all the relationships that I have, whether it's, a romantic relationship or a work relationship or a friendship. I've let go of the expectations of what they should be, accepted them for what they are. But that limiting belief of I'm not worthy of love has had a profound impact on most of my life. And now that I've let that go, it's had a profound impact on where I'm at now. So it's a huge, huge difference.
You're essentially like reprogramming your brain, right? To think differently and then act differently. And that's really difficult to do. So what do you think has been the biggest change? Has it been that thankfulness exercise?
Yeah, that's the most actionable thing. But also I went to a lot of counseling for quite a while, for a year I was going every week. For a year after that, I was going about every other week. And for about a year after that, I was going every month, just trying to get to the bottom of the emotional baggage that I was carrying from my childhood, from my failed marriage, and understanding what had happened there and why I felt like that I needed something to be fed into me from outside, and that limiting belief was a huge factor. And then in work, the limiting belief of, you have to be lucky, or you have to have money, or you have to, have the right opportunity to make money. And I shifted that belief quite a while back. And since then, I've been this fountain of ideas for how to make money. And, as a result of that, we have this company that we work in now that's going to do, $25 to $30 million in business this year. We're expecting it to do 40 to 50 million next year. We're set up for success. And we have the cryptocurrency, the crypto mining operation. We're getting into the NFT space and tokens and rental arbitrage. We're going to have, by this time next year, we're going to have 5 fully running companies. And it's just because there's so many opportunities in the world right now. It's like, man, if you don't recognize it, you got to open your eyes and stop limiting your vision to the situation that you're in, because people are becoming millionaires in different opportunities. You just have to get out there and choose one and educate yourself about it and really go after it. You got to make sure you don't self-sabotage. People begin to experience success often, and self-sabotaging is, I think, the most common way that people self-sabotage is they accept the current result instead of expanding on the current result. And so if you experience some success, then you get lazy. And if you do that, then you lose your momentum, and it's a form of self-sabotage. It's like, oh, I was just enjoying the success I had. Well, yeah, good for you, but life is work. Get used to it, because it's fun if you get used to it. It really is. I mean, success comes, and if you just keep going, right? Keep the momentum rolling, and it's amazing what you can make happen in a short period of time if you just keep going and you stop, if you stop self-sabotaging by cutting your momentum down to zero.
Yeah, I remember, just a quick story, I experienced this when I was just selling, when I was just a salesperson here, and I was pretty much a lone wolf. Like, obviously I was a part of the team, but I just went out there and sold my deals and didn't bother anybody, and for the most part got my stuff done, and it was fine. But there was a couple months where I took like a ton of referrals, and I wasn't continuing to like knock and build my pipeline. And so I hadn't knocked in a while, because I just sold off referrals, and I didn't have that momentum of going knocking. And so I actually had to go back out, and Roman went with me. And he didn't even knock a door with me. He just sat in the car because I needed somebody else to like check me that I was doing it. You know what I mean? But it's hard when you lose that momentum to reestablish it, right? And so then if you're constantly doing that, where you self-sabotage and then you lose momentum and then you have to build it up, how freaking exhausting is that?
Right. Yeah, it's easier to actually keep the momentum going, even though it seems like it's more work. It's not, because you don't have to restart. Mm-hmm. If you get your momentum going once, keep it going. Mm-hmm. Stop having the limiting belief of, well, it's okay for me to slack off to enjoy my success now. Instead, keep going. You can enjoy your success along the way, but keep going, right? Don't take the easy road of, oh, I got there and now I'm going to chill. And I got there again, but it was a lot of work and now I'm going to chill. Because eventually that's going to wear you out and you're going to quit.
Yeah. I think that like that plays into the limiting beliefs, because it's kind of like a hamster wheel that you're continuing to be on, right? And then if that's your reality and you have to do that all the time, then you're probably telling yourself that it's hard and you can't do it and that you can't continue to be successful and continue to have motivation, right? That you have to always restart, and that's your MO.
Yeah.
But you're the one that's causing that problem. And most people are, you've said this to me so many times in my life, most of the time you're too close to the problem to see it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think with this being like an internal thing most of the time, right? Or not even most of the time, all the time, this is internal, right? It's not something somebody's telling you. It's something you're projecting. It's the same thing.
So since you are too close to the problem, what's a good way to go about discovering your limiting beliefs? How can you figure out what your limiting beliefs are so that you understand the battle that you're fighting? Because if you understand the battle that you're fighting, that's half the battle, right? Because the rest of it is follow through. But if you really can get to the bottom of what is this limiting belief and how do I get there to where I have a full understanding of it so that I can overcome it, how do you find that out?
A lot of it was journaling and reading books and counseling, like you had talked about with your experience talking through things. I'm definitely a verbal processor, so I like to talk through my thoughts. But I think it's the first step. I mean, just like in any like addictive class, it's like recognizing it and looking at it. But, that's a hard question to answer because if you can't even see it, right? So I think for me, what's helped a lot is knowing that I have people that I trust and love me, but love me enough to give me critical feedback and to be able to help me grow. And so the thing with that, the tricky part is you have to be receptive to it, right? So you have to be willing to hear it. So I think, at least in my experience, being able to go to like the people that I trust, like you and my other friends and family, and be able to talk it through them and see their perspective of things, because they're maybe not directly involved, or maybe they're not involved at all, because I like doing that. I like talking to people that I'm like, you aren't involved at all in this. Let me get your 2 cents. This is what's going down. Because we all have our perspective on things, right? And your perspective is individual to you. I will never be able to completely, fully understand your perspective of the situation,
right. Yeah.
So I think just having other people that you love and trust and know that can bring different perspectives to the situation has been really helpful for me in my life, whether it was personal or work. I know me and you have had a lot of conversations about this. Like I said, you've told it to me a lot in relationships when I've come to you and I said, I've said that like you, let me back this up. In personal life and relationships, I've come to you and said like, I don't know what to do here, or I can't do this anymore, or whatever. And most of the time you have a pretty quick and easy solution to it, or you have an idea of a path that I need to take. Right. And I'm like, I don't even know why I didn't even think of that,
Right. Because you're being too close to the problem.
You're too bogged down with all of the negativity or the issue itself that you're just spinning in circles.
Right. I think that's, that self-analysis that, that you're talking about is really a huge key. I think that, I'm similar to you in some ways, is that in some ways I'm a verbal processor. I need somebody to like really like bounce the thoughts off of, whether it's ideas for good things or processing bad situations, but I'm also an analytical. So I read up on it and understand like the full spectrum of what I'm dealing with. For me though, the ultimate question that's really helped me overcome most of my limiting beliefs is taking especially the negative situations that I find myself in, whether it's work or personal, and asking myself, what did I contribute to this situation? Because the truth is, just like you said, there's always two sides to each story. I can't fully understand your perspective, but what I can do is be mature enough to do some self-analysis and say, what did I contribute to this situation? And really try to give myself an honest look on that. And I also really like what you said about surrounding yourself with people who can give you honest feedback. I mean, if you don't have a circle of people around you that will be real with you, and you gotta let them know you love them for being real. That you don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of yes men. You don't want to be, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's all right. It'll pass. It's okay. If that's the stuff you're hearing, nah. You need to get some people around you. They'll say, dude, you messed up. You did something fucked up right here, and change your behavior. And you got to love them for being close enough and real enough with you and make them feel safe giving you that kind of feedback, because that's tough.
Yeah, I think I have experienced that plenty of times. And I think the key to it is being receptive to the communication. Because it is all, like you said, if it's a circle of people that you love and trust, and they love and trust you, it's all coming from this good intentional place, right? And so understanding that if people are calling you out on your shit, it's because they love you and it's because they care about you and they feel like they can be totally honest with you. And I think that's something that we've really worked on establishing at Bartlett, and something that I'm working on establishing more in my personal life is just being more just radically honest, like we've talked about a lot. I liked what you said about the negative, recognizing in the negative situations how you've contributed to it. One thing I know I've experienced and dealt with a lot with limiting beliefs is like a victim mindset, right? And so they're like a dual party. They like to hang out, They're like, we're gonna have some chips and dip and a beer and we're gonna hang out, because you're giving yourself limiting beliefs and you can't do anything about it because you're the victim, right? And so you can't change it. It doesn't matter, right? So those limiting beliefs stay, and they're in my head. They had been concrete in the past, right? And so I had referenced my personal relationship with my son's biological father, and that was this is another good example of it. It may have been a fucked up relationship, and he may have treated me very poorly, and I could give you all the details, but I chose to stay in that relationship, for lots of different reasons, right? He's the father of my son, but I did choose to stay. So I am continuing this cycle. I am choosing to continue in this cycle, right?
Yeah, and that's what you brought to the situation. You didn't have a good boundary of how you should be treated as a human being and as the mother of a child and in a relationship. You didn't make a good choice. And that was what you contributed to that situation. And you choosing not to continue down that road has drastically changed your life.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real-time example, right? And that's why I feel like this is so valid for me personally, is I know that you've seen it. I know I've personally seen it. I've known other people that have seen it, but coming out of a toxic situation and choosing to leave that situation, whether or not you were the one that was causing most of the issues or not, it's not a he said, she said game. It's just understand the choices that you're making in any situation. And if they're the wrong choices, you need to change them, right? So focus on the things you can control, right? That's the serenity prayer. I reference it all the time. So it's focus on the things you can control, let go of the things you can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. No, it's good. That's really good. It's interesting, because I've seen a ton of growth in you over the last, just this year, the last 6 months in particular. Your life circumstances have changed hugely. Not just a little bit. There's been a huge life circumstances change. And I would personally attribute most of those changes to you finally moving away from that victim mindset and to saying, okay, I can change my life. There's positive things I can do with this bad relationship in the past that you've gotten cleaned up and cleared out mostly at this point. Another relationship that you're in with a seemingly pretty healthy person.
Yeah.
As far
healthy
as I can
relationships are great, guys.
Get in your house. Your life is hugely stabilized. And I did notice, and we've talked about it in the past, that you have walked around many times in the past and said, well, I can't help it. And had that victim mindset. And I haven't heard that from you lately. And now I look at you and I see your emotional control is where it needs to be. You're not claiming victimhood, you're claiming success.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me is I need to get out of this state of feeling like there's nothing that I can do about it and I'm just stuck. And another good example is just the way that you look at the situation and your personal perspective is you can change your personal perspective on things, right? So that negative relationship ended up turning into me being a single parent, right? At 22 years old, I think is when that all happened. 22 years old, single parent, 2-year-old kid, no college degree, right? I could sit there, and I did for a really long time, sat there and said, I don't have any experience, like I talked about earlier, and there's nowhere I'm going to be able to go, and I'm going to stay here. Or I could look at this and say, which I feel like I've kind of transitioned to that now, is what a great story, What an inspiring message. What a feat. If I can do that, what else can I do? You know? And so changing your perspective, even if it is a negative situation, on how you look at it, right? And how you move forward, because you can't go back and change the past. You can only learn from your lessons and move forward.
Right. You can do anything that you set your mind to. That's my personal belief, is I can do anything if I just set my mind to it, right? And I'm willing to put in the work. And so, if you need to change your mindset, figure out a way to do it. Study it. If you got limiting beliefs, understand it, get to the depth of the core of it. Where does that come from? Does it come from a bad relationship? Does it come from your childhood? Does it come from a bad experience you've had? Does it come from, truth is maybe it comes from the fact that you were born ugly, right? That doesn't mean you can't make the best of the situation. That doesn't mean you can't dress really well and have a great sense of humor and be confident. You may have things going against you, but so what? Everybody has something that's going against them.
Well, you could look at that situation specifically and say, I'm just super unique. Nobody looks like me, right? I don't look like the basic white girl walking around with Uggs and Starbucks,
Right.
That's definitely, I relate to that, right? I'm almost 6 feet tall. So growing up, I was always the tall kid who was taller than everybody, right? So the similar thing is look at it as a positive instead of a negative, right? Whether you say you're going to wake up on the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed, either way, you're right.
Yeah, if you look at some stars and some famous people, some of them, if you look, are pretty freaking ugly, actually, right? But they're still rich and famous because they made the best of their opportunity. They may be ugly, but they may have the best voice on the planet, or they may be a great actor. Whatever it is, they got out there and made the best of it, and they dress well when they're off the camera. They take care of themselves, they present themselves well, and suddenly it doesn't matter anymore because they stopped holding on to that victim mindset, that limiting belief, and said, hey, I'm going to make the best of the situation, and here's what I can do.
I think the biggest thing to know in limiting beliefs and understand is it all comes from internal. It's not stuff that people are projecting onto you and saying, you suck, you're ugly. Like, I'm not telling other people that, right? I would never walk around and tell my friends that, right? I will be honest with them and tell them when they fuck up. But, a lot of this stuff this negative self-talk and these, hamster wheels we get on, it's internal. It's something that you may think other people are thinking, but they're not. We think more about ourselves than we do anybody else.
Yeah, nobody else cares as much as you do. In fact, most people don't care at all.
Yeah.
That's it. You care about your situation probably more than anybody else ever could possibly. And the stories you tell yourself are the ones you live in. So 100% agree with that. There's a couple actionable steps here that I think are really good takeaways from this discussion about limiting beliefs. First of all, go out there and identify it. Do the work, the self-analysis, the study, the counseling, the mentorship. Find a friend who gives you honest feedback and figure out what it is that really is your limiting belief, and be prepared to hear hard things and set the stage with the people you're talking with and that you're trying to get analysis from, to let them know that it's safe for them to give you the real crap that you're dealing with, the real shit that they see. Next thing after that is make changes. First, it can be small changes, and they can be bigger and bigger and bigger, but keep making changes. Don't just make one little thing and be like, okay, I should be fixed now. No, it's a progression of changes that's going to take you from a hardcore limiting belief to a point of high level of success in whatever that area is, whether it's a relationship or financial, doesn't matter. It's going to be changes. Experiment, learn, tweak. Experiment, learn, fail, tweak. Experiment, learn, tweak. And just keep doing it over and over again until you get to the desired result, because success doesn't happen in a minute. It doesn't happen in a day. And most of the time it doesn't happen in a year. It takes a continual path of progress to get there, letting go of those limiting beliefs and embracing success. And just some, little practical things that I do, set goals. Set goals about how you're letting go of your limiting beliefs. Set goals about your financial situation. Set goals about what you're going to do at work, what you're going to do in relationships, what you're going to do with friendships, what you're going to do for activities, for things that you enjoy, for hobbies that you have, for skills you want to develop. Visualize them. Put them on a dream board so you have to see it every day. I write things on my mirror in a dry erase marker, my goals and what I'm trying to do. Believe it, and then go out and act. Act on it every day. Decide if it's important. If it's important, you're going to do something about it every day.
Mm-hmm. I think that, one other thing is that it's never done, right? You have to continue to grow on it, like you were talking about in that second point. And so I think that there's a line you can toggle, and sometimes you're having good days and the beliefs that you're telling yourself are positive and they're motivating to yourself as an individual. And then some days maybe you're in that headspace. And so I think recognizing when you're starting to toggle the wrong way is really important, and understanding, like you said, it's a process. Like there's not an end result and you're just going to be done and you're there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who wants to arrive anyway? I mean, people that like arrive suddenly end up being like druggies and having problems and committing suicide and weird stuff like that anyway. You know, look at any child star. Most of them don't ever adjust. Look at people who win the lottery. They go broke, right? They didn't earn it in a way that's traditional where they really had to put in the work and grow as a person to get there. They didn't ever deal with their limiting beliefs. They didn't ever, develop themselves as a person to be in that place where that can really be impactful in their lives. And so they squander it in some way or another.
Yeah, I like that. It makes me think that, like, 5 years ago around this time when I was getting ready to move back to Idaho and didn't have any money, you know what I mean? And thinking that, money would change everything, right? But the reality is I make pretty good money now and I still have to deal with my limiting beliefs, So it's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's not even really a Band-Aid because it doesn't change who you are as a person. You have to change who you are as a person, and then everything else will probably flow and follow that. Hopefully you can take away from this something that's really impactful to you, put something into action, and we will see you on our next podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on becoming a monster.